Do not wish, if you do not wish to appear in video, you can turn your video off, and you can also choose to stay on mute. We do ask that you update your name in Zoom to include your preferred name and your pronouns if you feel comfortable. We're going to pause for just a moment as we set up the recording on for each of those languages. Our apologies, we have a hiccup in the recording in one of the computers. Just stay with us for a minute. All right, I think we got that settled. Stephanie will advance the slide in just a moment, but I wanted to share that everyone's microphones are turned off to start with. You'll need to unmute to speak. And if you're on a phone, you do that by pressing *6. If you're on a other device, you can go to the find the unmute button at the bottom left of your screen. You can also use the nonverbal feedback options. You can raise your hand or leave a message in the chat box if you have a question. If you called into the meeting, you'll use *9 to raise your hand. A friendly reminder that to not look at your screen while you're driving. We want everyone to be safe on our roads, including during these meetings. With that, I'll introduce the speakers tonight. Versus myself, my name is Jen Rowe. I am an active transportation planner in the Boston Transportation Department. And I'm going to pass it over to my left on the screen to Sarah.
Thanks, Jen. Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Rodrigo. I'm the Senior Public Art Project Manager in the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture, and I will pass it along to Jeff.
Good evening, everyone. Jeffrey Alexis, Principal Civil Engineer with the Public Works Department, and I'm also the Project Manager for the Cummins Highway project.
All right, and the goals for today's meeting are to introduce you to the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture and to share the many different ways that public art happens in the city. We would love to learn a bit more about your vision and desires for cultural life around Cummins Highway, and for you to learn about other resources and activities that are going on in the city. For a moment, there we go. Now I'll kick it back to Jeff to do our little recap of the Cummins Highway project.
Thanks, Jen, much appreciated. So just to jump in, just want to give you guys an update on where we're at for Cummins Highway and what we're doing. We have started the design for Cummins Highway, but I mean, as we've stated previously, I mean, we cannot do a design without your input. If you have any questions or comments, something that you want to bring to our attention, or something that's specifically pertaining to either, to where you live in front of your home or your street, specifically along Cummins Highway, let us know. And that's something that we can take a look at and incorporating in the design. Um, th- this project, Cummins Highway, this design will shape what Cummins will be for the next 70 years. So we were going to continue doing our community outreach for this project, and we hope that you provide the input that we need to make this successful. So why are we planning on reconstructing Cummins Highway? Cummins Highway hasn't been updated since the spring of 1955. And what you can see right now in this image is that streetcars ran along Cummins, which were removed in 1953 to make room for cars. And essentially what we see with Cummins now, with the 4 lanes in each direction, the street layout reflects priorities of the 1950s, which essentially enabled non-drivers to drive quickly through this neighborhood. So for the Cummins Highway reconstruction project, what we plan on doing is completely rebuilding the street. That includes reconstructing the sidewalks, proposing new curb, street lights, traffic signals along the corridor. We're going to be repaving the roadway so that's nice and smooth and not what it currently is right now. But then we're also going to be replacing, or we're currently replacing the utilities along the corridor. As you can see, National Grid is actually still out there. This project has been budgeted for approximately $24 million. So this is a huge investment that the city is making to make these safety improvements and also these beautifying and reinvesting in this neighborhood. So one of the things that we take a look at in regards to all our projects throughout the city of Boston is to advance the goals of Go Boston 2030. In order to do that, what we look at proposing for our projects and for our streets is to improve safety. We want to take a look at ways that we can reduce emissions, and ultimately we want to invest in the communities to achieve equity and access to our opportunities. So a number of neighborhoods throughout the city of Boston have been divested in the past, including the Mattapan neighborhood. So we're looking at ways to basically make those improvements citywide, not just in certain neighborhoods. So in order to accomplish those goals, we also look at partnering up with other city departments to advance our collective plans. What we try to do is inform residents about the work that's going around the city so that you can stay involved. And of course, it improves our collaboration with our work to achieve not only the city's goals, but also neighborhood goals. As I mentioned, collaboration is a huge part in achieving these goals. We want to bring awareness and participation to the efforts that you care about. So as I mentioned, we do want residents in the neighborhoods to reach out to us and let us know what it is and what improvements do you want to see in your neighborhood. Ultimately, what we look to do is confirm your vision through the future of our projects, as well as our visions that we have for the city of Boston. And with that, I would turn over to Sarah so she can talk about the Office of Arts and Culture.
Thanks, Jeff. As Jen noted in the introductions, I'm here tonight to talk about the Office of Arts and Culture and the Boston Art Commission, share some of the different ways new public art is created in Boston, and to hear your thoughts about public art around the city and your vision for the future cultural life around Cummins Highway. I'll be talking for a little while. So while I'm presenting, I would love for everyone to add their favorite piece of public art in Boston to the chat. And if you feel like telling us why it's your favorite, I would really love to hear that too. So I'm part of the public art team in the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture, which means I work under the Director of Public Art, Karen Goodfellow, who you can see in the lower left. The chief of the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture is Cara Elliott Ortega, who is in the top left corner of the screen. And my colleagues Amber Torres and Sharon Amaguni round out the public art team. But we have a lot of other people in the office because we do a lot of work aside from public art. The programs in our office range from grants to individual artists and organizations, the Opportunity Fund, Artist Fellowship Awards, the Radical Imagination for Racial Justice, also known as RIRJ. And there's a lot of info on this slide, which I'm not going to read all of it, but I'd be happy to share more information about these programs through links. And we can move on to the next slide when the interpreters are ready. We also have an artist resource desk, which is a great resource for artists living in the city. We manage the Poet Laureate and Youth Poet Laureate. We manage the City Hall galleries, which are throughout City Hall, and artists can apply to show here in the building, as well as a lot of other arts events. We partner with open studios organizations, there's creative aging partnerships, all types of arts and culture programming come through our office. Regarding public art specifically, this slide gives an overview of the work that we do, which is broadly divided into commissioning projects and what we call collections projects. Commissioning projects, shown on the left, include city-initiated artworks, supporting community and artist-initiated projects, and programs like the Transformative Public Art Program and the Paint Box Program. It's a favorite program. Collections means all the artworks that are owned by the City of Boston. Most of the collections projects involve maintenance, conservation, and repairs, and there's also a lot of administrative work. Since the Boston Art Commission was founded in 1890, we have a lot of artworks in the collection, and there's a lot of records associated with those artworks, which is interesting for anyone who's interested in historical data as well. And a moment ago, I mentioned the Boston Art Commission. The BAC is the commissioning body for public art for the City of Boston. It's housed in the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture. The BAC holds contracts with artists, approves artwork on city land, and conserves the City of Boston's collection of art and historical artifacts. They also maintain the curatorial vision, for lack of a better phrase. And the City of Boston's curatorial vision is our guiding principle for all public art in the city. And I'm going to read that. To commission and approve innovative and transformative artworks that engage communities, enrich and enliven the urban environment, are driven by an artistically strong vision, enhance the diversity of the existing collection, respond directly to a specific environment, and possess durability appropriate to the lifespan of the work. So as Senior Public Art Project Manager, the majority of my work is on commissioning projects, and specifically city-initiated ones. This is one of the ways that public art comes to Boston, is through Percent for Art and capital projects. The Percent for Art program was an initiative of the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture and was a result of the city's cultural plan, Boston Creates. The program demonstrates the city's commitment to sustainable funding for the arts by setting aside 1% of the city's annual capital borrowing budget for the commissioning of permanent public art for capital projects. Beyond integrating public art in city capital projects, the Percent for Art program engages other city agencies, like our colleagues in transportation and public works, and municipal partners on best public art practices, and demonstrates the lasting value of high quality public art across the city. And on this slide, you can see some artworks that were commissioned and installed in the past year. These were all Percent for Art funded projects. And there's a lot of text on the bottom, but I'll just go through it really quickly. 3 artworks in order by Destiny Palmer, Maya Erdely, Lily Shee, and Crystal by Wegner. And those were all installed here in City Hall in the elevator lobbies. Then below, going clockwise across, there's an artwork by Monica Bravo called Unus Mundus, which is in the new East Boston Police Station. At the bottom is ROXBURY by Joe Wardwell with Nakia Hill and the 826 Boston Y Lab writers at the Roxbury branch of the Boston Public Library. And then the wonderful bronze chairs over there, thank you. That is Width and Web by Matthew Hintzman, and it's located at the Jamaica Plain branch of the Boston Public Library and Curtis Hall BCYF campus. That was a lot. I apologize to the interpreters. So another way that public art comes to the city of Boston is through the Transformative Public Art Program. The Transformative Public Art Program was developed over time, and I actually have a little bit of different information than is on the slide. Originally, there was a program called Pop-Up Dudley Connections in Nubian Square in 2014, followed in 2017 by Quincy Corridor Grove Hall. And that project included Chanel Thurville's Affirmation Station, Rob Gibbs' Breathe Life, and other beloved murals. And over time, those programs were officially organized into the Transformative Public Art Program. Through this program, we continue commissioning socially responsive public artworks. In 2021, the program commissioned over $1 million worth of murals across the city. And you can see some of those here. Some of these are in progress. Others have been completed. I am not going to do that to the interpreters again, but you can see all the credits for these wonderful artworks are on the bottom left. And then there's Paintbox. Paintbox is an annual program that provides grants to emerging artists who are interested in public art. They submit designs, and then selected artists are assigned to paint an electrical box in their neighborhoods. This is a perennial favorite program that MOAC runs in collaboration with the Boston Transportation Department. And last year, the city commissioned 83 artists. This year's Paintbox application has closed, and we're looking forward to seeing up to 100 newly painted boxes across the city by the end of this painting season. And you can see samples on the right. There are so many more that we could have shared. And it's open every year, or has been. I shouldn't make promises, but and I saved the best for last. Another important way that public art happens in Boston is through the direct efforts of the community. You may be familiar with the sculpture project at the Mattapan branch of the Boston Public Library, which the Friends of the Mattapan branch have been working on for quite a while under the leadership of Glenola Mitchell. I'm really lucky to have been able to support the Friends' work and moving this project towards completion over the past couple of years. So much of the amazing public art in our city is the result of the hard work, generosity, and dedication of community members like Glenola, Cassandra Cato Lewis, and Barbara Cricklow, who I think I might have seen here tonight. And this is a pathway that, while challenging in some ways, has led to the creation of some of the city's most iconic past works and future monuments. We have dedicated community groups to, like, the Veterans and Friends of Gordine Park, to thank for the Justice Edward O. Gordine and African American Veterans Memorial, which you can see in process on the bottom right of the screen. And the Frederick Douglass Sculpture Committee for the Frederick Douglass Memorial, both of which is shown on the lower left-hand side, including an image of Douglass Plaza designed by Sasaki Associates. This is another really great pathway. As I said, there's some challenges associated, but so many of our wonderful works citywide have come through community-initiated projects. And I think we have some time for questions and discussion now. And Stephanie is going to guide us through it.
Yes, hello. Thank you so much for that overview, Sarah. It's really incredible, all of the things that your team works on and makes possible for the rest of us to enjoy. So I first want to remind people that if you have a favorite work of public art, sculpture, painting, whatever form it may be, please put it in the chat. I know that both Jen and Charlotte have mentioned theirs, but no one else has jumped in yet. Would love to hear more about the things that you enjoy in the city. And while you're thinking on that or putting in your questions, we would love to hear more about, what you believe makes Cummins Highway and the neighborhoods nearby unique. This is really important as, we start thinking about potential arts projects in the area. So if you have thoughts that you want to share aloud, you can put your hand up and I will call on you. Otherwise, feel free to put your responses in the chat. Well, I'll start just
Thanks,
because
Stephanie.
one of my favorite things about coming to Mattapan more generally, and some locations that are not necessarily on Cummins Highway, but Cummins Highway gets me there, is the food and the culture of food in the neighborhood. Getting some patties or some specialty pastries from a Haitian bakery. Those are things that I really enjoy, and I sometimes I feel like art is, it should be inclusive of food, because it is like so cultural and so like open to everyone to enjoy. And so that's something that I really think is unique in this neighborhood. And I know whenever I think about going there, I kind of start salivating a little at the thought of some of the food that I might encounter.
I think food is absolutely a huge part of culture. I wish that we did more around food in the office.
Maybe we can wonderful. paint some of the like
Yeah.
the street control boxes or something with different foods. I know we have some downtown that are like candies or donuts and stuff
Mhm.
like that.
Yeah.
Maybe we could find some ways to incorporate that down here.
I love that.
Those are one of my favorite paint boxes is the chocolate factory one in Ashmont. So yeah, it's onto something.
I don't know that one. There are so many paint boxes that there's constantly new ones that I haven't seen, you know, even ones that have been there for a few years. And I take photos of them and send them back to the office and people go, how have you never seen that before? All right, don't everyone jump in at once. Stephanie, should we ask the next question? Maybe.
Yeah, we can throw that one up there. So the other thing that we are interested in ideating with all of you is, you know, how will you use Cummins Highway when the project is complete?
And I can give everyone a little context. What we are thinking about here, you know, is that art and culture are so, obviously they're so much about place and about how people are using space and how people are experiencing the public realm. And that can really influence the kind of art that you see, obviously. I mean, maybe I'm just stating obvious things here, but, you know, oh, Stephanie, I love the pizza squirrel paint box so much. I'm not sure it's still there. I haven't checked in a little while, but that is one of my favorites too.
Yeah, I don't think it is, but yeah, one of my
Should
favorites.
be redone.
I used to wait for the bus over there. So every day I'd be like, get to see my favorite painting.
But I would love to hear from people about how they envision themselves using this this space once it's complete. What would be different in the future to what you're doing now? Sort of what's your ideal? What's your vision for the cultural life around this corridor? Like what exists and what you see in the future. I'm going to keep asking questions. Does anybody want to ask me questions? I'm also happy to answer questions.
I see Vivian turned on her camera. Did you want to speak, Vivian? Awesome. Good to see you.
All right. I'm going to back up a little bit. I love the boxes and being able to see them throughout the city. I'd love to see some boxes that depict children. Because a lot of them, I know that the artists that are probably putting them together, the majority of them are adults, but just some of the playfulness that will happen with kids to remind folks that we do have children in our neighborhoods, and being able to see them using spaces differently and have those depicted on that. And then I can go ahead and answer the second question. I will continue or eventually be able to use my bicycle on Cummins Highway. So I'd love to see some images along Cummins Highway so that we can start thinking differently, and how, you know, this project is about having people be able to move in spaces the way they wish to, and to be able to do that safely. Some interpretive kind, like the type of trees we have, or maybe even some of the volcanic ash. You know, I have neighbors that have huge rocks in their backyard, and I'm always fascinated and wanting to go back and like ask them about that, but just some of that historical context as well, because people may wonder why would you get a house where there's a rock in front of it? Well, that was there before us, or things like that. Some of that education stuff, pulling out some of the information about the river, what are the type of fish that were in the river. So being able to use them for educational opportunities would be great. One time, Charlotte and I were doing a walk through on Blue Hill Ave, and the fish market that's right there in the square has this really cool edging on the top. It would be nice to maybe have some mural next to that that's kind of like fish related. And so just having people and giving them the opportunity to look at the architecture and things along in Mattapan and in all the different neighborhoods differently, and have them have an opportunity to be able to like come up with what would you like to see on this wall kind of stuff. I'm also fascinated with the age of a lot of the buildings. You know, when you see that it was like, you know, it'll say AD 19, or the bridges, to see how old they are. It may not be a great thing to know that a bridge is as old as it is, but at least being able to, I'm always fascinated by that. So just, I don't know if there's a way just to kind of highlight that doesn't need to be like necessarily a mural project, but just add a little bit of flair to that. I think might be kind of cool. And even why not put that the Fairmont line is here at Blue Hill Ave, make those spaces really pop, because in my conversations with folks, they don't necessarily realize that that is an entrance. And especially the one on Cummins Highway, since the stop is called Blue Hill Ave. But why not do something to kind of highlight the different stops on the commuter rail? So, I'll go on. So I'm going to mute myself now, or you guys can mute me.
No, that's great. You
Nice to
keep
see
going.
everyone, by the way. Nice to see everyone, by the way. So, okay.
Miss Barbara has raised her hand.
Yeah, I have a question. Back in the 60s, when a lot of the Black artists had their murals posted like on Martin Luther King near the YMCA and a few other places on Blue Hill Avenue. Back then, my concern is that some of the new murals that we're going to put up, how will they be maintained? Because I know two of my friends, Dana Chandler and Gary Rickson, they were some of the masterminds for some of those murals back in the 60s. But my concern is to maintain them so that we keep these beautiful pieces of art for some longevity, not so that they disappear. So is there any maintenance, management to maintain them? So, like, as a matter of fact, somebody, I don't know who did the mural, but it's at the Roxbury Center for the Performing Arts, right on Blue Hill Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
There's another mural there, and periodically it has to be redone.
Right.
So I'm just asking about, like things like that. Whose responsibility is that going to be?
So it depends in part on how the project is commissioned. The city does have some conservation and maintenance funding. In the past, before my time with the office, I know that we helped fund refresh of, oh my gosh, it's right in Nubian Square. There's a mural, right? Faces, I believe the title is Faces of Dudley, back from the previous name. So sometimes murals do need to be refreshed. It's a little bit complicated when they're on private property. A lot of times that's up to the property owner, to the artist, if they want to do it. I will say that materials now are better. I am no expert, but there are, better paints and UV protectants. And so the longevity is generally better with the newer murals than with some of the older murals. And people understand surfaces more, it depends on prep, those types of things. So that's a long and rambly way of saying it all really depends. But for city commissioned murals, we consider those to be long-term artworks. We don't consider them short-term or temporary. And part of that is maintaining them.
So the city does have a fund.
We have conservation and maintenance funds, not a lot, but we do have some. We actually just conserved 4 sculptures actually in the past week, which is something we hadn't been able to do for a long time. We didn't have set aside funding for maintenance and conservation of artworks. So we're slowly working through the collection. We had a collection assessment done on all the sculptures in the collection over the past year. In terms of murals, it's a little bit different. We wouldn't go with the same conservation group, but we can hire artists to do refreshes, but it does depend on if it's city property. Typically the city is not going to necessarily be able to fund things on private property. And there's a lot of murals out there. So there is, with the works we commission, we have the BAC, the Boston Art Commission, maintains care of any works in our collection, and that includes murals that we've commissioned.
Okay, now that you said that, Sarah, many of the murals that I've seen, even the ones that are on Blue Hill Avenue, that's not city property.
It's not.
So in other words, there's a possibility we may lose these.
I mean, it's always a possibility with artworks on private property. That is one of the risks of murals on privately owned buildings, is that that's privately owned property. I would have to know the specific mural to understand what the exact situation would be.
Well, there's one, and I'm not sure the name of the street. It's on Blue Hill Avenue, and I remember what used to be across the street a long time ago.
And I'll be honest. Was it Miss Margaret? That I'm not an expert in collections or in murals care either. I work a lot with, I work primarily with new works, but we can definitely follow up after this meeting if there are specific murals, that you have concerns about.
Yeah, because this one that's on Blue Hill Avenue, it's been used quite a few times to represent the city of Boston, but it's on the side of an apartment building.
Okay.
And Boston has been using it as just like a little logo of Boston.
Oh.
So, and that's what I'm thinking, I'm
Right.
wondering, but, and right now I don't see, we talk about Cummins Highway. I don't know any city property that they actually own that we could actually consider putting artwork on if they don't own it.
Yeah, and I'm just seeing in the chat that it was part of the mayor's mural crew potentially, which is a program that is housed in parks. And they have done, thank you so much, Stephanie, for adding is it Jen? Stephanie, sorry, I have too many windows open. For adding the information about the mural crew, about the refresh of Faces of Dudley. And that was all mural crew work, which is a city program, and they paint a lot of private property through agreements with the property owners.
Okay, so
that's beautiful. Wow.
Yeah, and there's one on the side, on the right side of the building, with a ballet dancer. But I'm also talking about the one that's further down near Grove Hall. There's one down near Grove Hall, and I've seen it used quite a few times as a representation of Boston. And again, like I said, these are so, they're there for the history, and people drive through the neighborhood. Some people drive through the neighborhoods just to see the artwork. And again, we don't want to lose these, and hopefully the city will come up with some sort of budget that will be able to maintain these. And like I said, if we don't own any, the city doesn't own anything on Cummins Highway, it's probably a moot situation right now anyway. But I also noticed down in Roxbury, a friend of mine did the DeWitt playground, Marlon Forrester.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah. I like what he did, and I was hoping that more artists like him can do more of those things in the community.
I hope so too. And Marlon is that project is still in process. He's an amazing artist, and just a real pleasure to work with. And I want to apologize, Barbara. I couldn't see anyone except for myself, Jen, and Jeff, so I couldn't see who I was talking to. So sorry about that. I also want to say Kenya, I think, has some more information. She has her hand up. I don't know if she wanted to, Kenya, if you wanted to talk about those murals. She did put in the chat, she said, if it's private property, you have to get permission.
Can you hear me?
Property. Yes, great.
Okay.
Hi.
Good. Hey guys, that won't be long. No, I was going to say that Roxbury Center for the Performing Arts was done several years ago, and I did put this in the chat. But Heidi Short from the Mayor's mural crew was hugely instrumental in getting that mural completed and done on both sides, the front and the facade. So that was done by way of her. And I remember Miss Andrea Major, who's the owner, instructor, all the great things in this community at the Roxbury Center for the Performing Arts. She wanted that. And so she was completely appreciative and she loves it. And as far as like all the other murals that we've done as far as at the BPDA, the whole thing is getting permission. It doesn't have to be a city-owned property or even a state-owned property for there to be a mural going up. You have to just get the permission from the property owner who really wants it to get it done. We've done that with the Carter Post and Mattapan Square on both sides. We've done it at the Hazelton Street, the teen center over there. And we're trying to get another one done. And property owners are excited. Some of them actually really want it because it just kind of boosts the visibility of their building. It kind of makes things look a lot better. You know what I mean? That whole thing. So it can be done. It's just a bit of a process.
Yeah, and Kenya, I think so much of it has to do with the property owner feeling, you know, supported. Like people really want to see this as well. We're actually working with a property owner in Alston to do a mural about the life and legacy of Rita Hester. And that's being installed this week. And that's on private property as well. But it did take us a little bit to get a property owner agreement in place. And once they felt like this was something the community really wanted, the property owner came along with it. So that can definitely help when it comes to these murals. I'm sure you've found the same thing. If people feel invested and like they're connected to their neighbors, then they're more willing to provide walls, I think. And I just want to go back to one of Barbara's other points. She's talking about Marlin. We're right now in the middle of an artist selection as well for the Malcolm X Park basketball courts project, and got some really wonderful local artist teams who applied. So that will be an exciting announcement, hopefully in the near future, about more courts work. And I know it's a different neighborhood. We're not talking about Roxbury tonight, but she brought it up, and it's a really cool project to be doing some more basketball court painting. All right, I digress. Sorry. I get a little enthused sometimes.
Understandable. There's a lot of exciting stuff going on. I just put in the chat more about the mural. You mentioned, I just saw the press release that went out about Rita's spotlight. So it's really excited to see that.
Thanks, Jen. And Stephanie just shared as well Maria Molteni's amazing court painting piece, which won a Public Art Network Award. I think it was in 2019, which is really an incredible courts project. And she was an artist in residence. And forgive me if I get any of my own office's history wrong. I joined the office like basically that year. And that's another program I actually hadn't talked about at all, was the artist in residence program through our office, which is another way for artists to get involved in the civic life of the city, as well as the, arts life. All right. I'm sorry, I talked too much. Did I shut down this whole great discussion about murals? Oh, thank you. I have to say you're all wonderful with the links. I really appreciate it.
Just multitasking over here.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say, I think, from the project team side, we're just really excited that you're here because, and this has been something that people have brought up a number of times, and there's been a lot of interest in, how can more artists be engaged and creating art for the community.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to artists being more engaged, I really encourage people to sign up for our newsletters, which are available on the page, our main page for the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture. There are 2 of them. We have links in the presentation when we go back to that as well. And it's really a great way for artists to learn about new opportunities, including all of these different commissioning opportunities. So everything gets posted in those newsletters. And follow us on all of the different social media places. We can always do more outreach, but we also need artists to sign up so that we can send them things. And we're so interested in and working with our local arts community. I mean, that's who we're here for. So, and I see Barbara, I did not realize that Marlon is married. Is your nephew-in-law. That's amazing. It's a very small city in some ways. All right, so there we are. So you can see we've got an Arts in the City newsletter, which is general arts news, arts events, and then the Artist Resource Desk newsletter. I mentioned the Artist Resource Desk before. That is specifically for artists. It gives lots of updates, space, artist housing, all different grant opportunities, jobs, any calls that we put out through our office, as well as calls that come out through other organizations, nonprofits and all sorts of opportunities. So I really encourage artists in particular to sign up for that newsletter because it will provide a lot of different information and opportunities to them. Oh my goodness, thank you.
Links. And if it's okay if I jump in too, I just wanted to share. I was really impressed hearing a little more about the Paint Box program and how it was almost like has a secret agenda of like trying to get more artists to be working with the city and like have a kind of easier commission to start with, and then kind of helping artists learn the ropes of partnering. So I thought that was really, really cool that thing your department does.
Absolutely. That's it's really an emerging artist program to give them a little taste of what it is to be working out in the public realm, to be working on an object, and thinking about site specificity, which is really, what neighborhood you're in and what you're proposing and how does it relate. And it's a really fun program for that. And that, Jen, you reminded me that I think it was Vivian mentioned something that I thought was so interesting, which is depicting more children and childlike themes. I think that's really great. We can't have kids actually involved in the painting of the boxes because it's not the safest thing, especially for children. But to think about the content and how that could be used to reflect more about kids is really interesting. Yeah, so thank you, Vivian, for that comment.
I also appreciated Vivian's comment about the geologic history, because I know in the project design we're having to figure out where the ledge is exactly, because it relates to how we the different types, like what could grow depending on how deep the rock is. So anyway, these things are all kind of interconnected, and I think art has this way of helping us see that. So
yeah, absolutely. And the historic information as well. And I see Harry is asking about recreating the Mandela mural somewhere. That was an incredibly sad loss. I know but that almost sounds glib, and it's not. It was a really unfortunate loss, but we are having conversations with the artist, who is amazing and wonderful and generous. So hopefully at some point we will see that iconic work in some form again. I know that he has done some small reproductions that were available. It was about 1.5 years ago. I don't know if he's done any more, but I would encourage you all to support his work as well as Deem 5. And he's another great local artist. Yeah, thank you, Kenya. Exactly. And I see Vivian's comment about giving children, young people the opportunity to meet with the artists. You know, we encourage, actually, we require all of the artists we commission to do community engagement. And since a lot of them are working in libraries, in BCYFs and other, in schools, we're doing, you know, a number of schools projects. So we've had some really wonderful engagements with kids of all ages over the past year. And I'm just in particular thinking about a workshop with, I think it was 30 or 40 kids in a range of ages from 5 to 12 that the artist Curtis Williams did just a couple months ago. And it was adorable. And he's incorporating some of their artworks into his new proposal for a library in Brighton. But it is really, that community engagement is so important to all of these projects, because that's a huge component of public art, and especially to engage across the ages, you know, to reach kids and elders and everyone.
So Sarah, we have a question, is how is the word getting out to interested artists, or have artists already been chosen? Is there a specific location? How can you give a quick recap on how we find spaces for public art and recruit folks?
So I think that Zena so tonight is an introduction to the office, to all of the different programs that we offer, and to different ways that public art is commissioned. There is not a specific project for Cummins Highway at this point. And in the immediate future, we don't have a plan for a project. We're here to understand what the community is looking for. And that's why I was asking the questions about how you envision the cultural space, how people imagine themselves using this civic space when it's completed, and what makes the highway and surrounding neighborhoods unique, and just understanding more from you all what you're looking for. So there's no artist chosen. We're many steps from anything like that. This is more me sharing information about my office, all of our programs, and then hearing from you about this project, so that we can understand better if at some point in the future, when we have capacity, if there were a possibility of doing public art and what that would look like. So yeah, you're welcome. And I see that Vivian asked about electric boxes on Cummins Highway. Do you have electric boxes on Cummins Highway? Jen?
Yes. So we will have, street lighting boxes of controllers, as well as traffic controllers along Cummins. So maybe we could reach out to Amber
Yeah.
and add a couple more to the list.
Yeah.
Just so everyone, I mentioned Amber earlier in the
Yeah.
meeting. That's our the other public art project manager on our team, Amber Torres, and she's managing the Pink Box program.
I'm assuming we first want to make sure like all of these boxes that get painted are staying and not being reconfigured with the project. So yeah, but also Zena, I just wanted to, in case you weren't here earlier, I know you joined a little late. Sarah also shared about a couple newsletters that artists or those who are interested in the arts in Boston can sign up for, and we can put that link back in the chat, so that, were there to be a future project, you would hear about it that way.
And other projects and opportunities too. There's a lot going on.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Speaking of a lot going on, I want to make sure we do get to the portion of the meeting where I run through a lot of slides about what's going on. But before I do that, passing it over to Stephanie to speak about what's next for Cummins Highway.
Yeah, thanks, Jen. If folks are still coming with questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We will definitely come back to that. So just very quickly want to go through where we are in the project and what to expect next, as well as a recap of what we have done. So again, our goal is to transform Cummins Highway into a tree-lined neighborhood street that is safer for families, connects residents to the city's network of open spaces, and makes it easy for everyone, including our elders, to cross the street. We are sort of wrapping up our year of monthly or almost monthly topical meetings. So we started last June, and here we are this June talking about public art. And we are still working on the design for Cummins Highway. So all of the feedback that we get through this forum, as well as when we're out on the street talking to folks, when we're at the farmer's market or on the street corner, emails, phone calls, everything gets logged and considered as we continue moving forward with the final design for the project. So we kicked off these meetings with a discussion about Black Americans and how their mobility has been limited in the US through police, policies, and polity. The person who led that discussion was Charles T. Brown. You can find out more information about his work and research in this area at arrestedmobility.com. In July, we talked to folks from the city's environment department about heat resilience and air quality. I hope you have all seen the heat resilience study that was issued a month or so ago. We also were able to install some air quality sensors, and I believe that the dashboard is now public. We'll make sure that link goes in the chat and out to the community so you can see what the air quality on Cummins Highway is like. In August, we talked with the Boston Planning and Development Agency about Plan Mattapan and how our departments work together to think about land uses, housing, transportation, and other aspects of life. In September, we talked about street lighting and what we were thinking. We gathered feedback on the kinds of lighting that you see elsewhere and your questions about our proposals. In October, we invited Mary Bovenzi from the Public Health Commission to talk to us about what their work overlaps with our work in terms of street design, health, and well-being, both sort of short-term, but also generational and population level improvements in our health. In January, we talked about bus stops and how we design them and how we work with the MBTA to provide an accessible option for folks regardless of their ability. In February, we talked about the urban forest plan and about street trees and some of the things that we already know about trees on Cummins Highway, ideas for how we're going to protect those trees, but also how we're planning ahead for more. In March, we talked about intersections and traffic and how the city manages and balances different modes of transportation and demands at intersections using traffic signals. We also talked about our proposed roundabout that we will be adding as part of the Cummins Highway reconstruction project. In April, Age Friendly Boston came and talked to us about their work, both in Mattapan and citywide, and the ways that we can incorporate design practices in the Cummins Highway project that supports aging in place and our community as they get older. In May, we talked about disabilities. The Disabilities Commission shared how they work across all kinds of different agencies and departments in the city to design for systemic accessibility. We also talked specifically about some of the design details that we work on when we do street redesign projects like Cummins Highway. And you have plenty of opportunities to talk to us this summer. So Jen has been arranging a series of events for everyone to come chat with us. So I know Jeff was out on June 10th talking to folks. We will be at the farmers market about once a month. So we will be sharing information about that in your mailbox, in your email inbox, on the posters along the corridor, anywhere else where you want us to tell people to come talk to us. So the next time that you can talk with us in person will be Saturday, July 9th. We will be at the farmers market, which runs from 10 to 1 p.m. We'll also have, as I mentioned, all of that stuff out in the world, trying to tell people how to come talk to us. But we also are proactive in talking to people on the street. So you might bump into Jen or Karen or Hannah or someone else on our team when they're out just walking the corridor and talking to folks. So looking forward to talking with you all more over the summer. Back to you, Jen, with some resources and upcoming events.
Stephanie. All right. So a lot going on, as you all know, in the summertime in Boston. So I wanted to start off with some events and happenings related to art. If Sarah's presentation about public art in Boston interested you, you could attend the Boston Art Commission meeting. There's one coming up on next Tuesday, the 28th. The Arts and Culture office is also hiring for a couple positions, which is really exciting. I know they are very excited to have more folks to be able to have more capacity to do more of this excellent work. They're hiring a director of grants and programs who will be responsible for developing the strategy, aligning with the city's cultural plan and building relationships with the arts and culture sector and community groups. So a lot of what we've all been talking about today. And there's another position. You may or may not be aware that the City Hall Plaza is undergoing a redesign. There's been a lot of construction right outside for a while. I'm very excited for it to be over and to see what it looks like after all this. And we're hiring for a plaza engagement manager to kind of be programming all sorts of different events. Very exciting job, and that's also posted now. And then we mentioned the Mattapan Farmers Market. Our team will be there on opening day, July 9th. It runs on Saturdays from July through October. And we hope to see you there. We always like to plug Blue Bikes. Blue Bikes is our public transit by bike in Boston. There are discounted passes available, and you can learn more about that in the link that Nathaniel just dropped. And our team in the transportation department runs a Learn to Bike series for women. It was recently, I think, front page in the Globe. It's very exciting. We have one of those events coming up this week on Thursday. And then they run throughout the summer and fall, and we teach some basic skills. We teach about riding on the street. So Vivian Ortiz, who you've heard from earlier, is one of our star instructors. And although hope she recovers soon to be able to join us again. We love you, Vivian. All right, next one. And mentioned this at the last meeting, but really want to make sure everyone who has seen this, the MBTA is proposing changes to the bus network across the region. There's a lot of important changes, and we want to make sure that you see them and are able to provide some feedback. And there's more about it, about the opportunities on the next slide. So they actually have this interactive map where you can see all the proposed changes and kind of even compare your trips as they are today with how they would be in the proposed plan. So definitely check that out. And then in the next slide, there are, okay, so this is the first, this is kind of a little screenshot of showing some of the proposed changes in Mattapan. And then the MBTA has a number of different opportunities for folks to provide feedback, including some in-person meetings in July, some open houses in June and July, and then a virtual meeting as well. Lots of opportunities there, really important. All right, and then again, if you've joined us before, you've heard this a number of times. The Route 23, 28, and 29 buses are free. And actually, their new content for today is that there is going to be a meeting. Information, I believe, is on the next slide, that you will be able to provide feedback on this free bus program. It's an MBTA run event. Yes, there we are. Yeah, so Thursday, June 23rd, coming right up.
And Jen, do you know if this public hearing is more general about fare-free buses, or if it's about the 3 that the city has made free?
I'll double check the link. I thought it was specifically on the 3. Well, it's okay. It says service on routes 23, 28, 29 will be fare-free for 2 years. Provide an overview and take comments on the fare-free bus program. So it's not entirely clear from that description which of the two. The MBTA is also planning to make some improvements on the Mattapan line. And there was a public meeting about it in April, which you can watch online, and you can send feedback to the email address on the slide. And then the city's has an open space plan survey out. It's a quick survey, and the link is on this page. And Nathaniel, I'll just put in the chat. The Boston's Rental Relief Program is also still open. More information on this slide. Fun one. There's Family Zumba on Tuesday evenings in Almont Park. It's free and run by the Boston Parks Department. There's also, speaking of children, there's an arts and crafts workshop that is on, well, 2 of them, July 8th and July 15th, both in Mattapan at the Walker Playground.
And I believe the Walker Playground is having its big grand reopening in July. Double check that.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. And there is a city has an Immigrant Heritage Month series, which is coming to Mattapan with a entrepreneurship panel and resources fair. It's at the library.
I'm sorry, there is not a slide for it, but the Walker Playground Ribbon cutting will be during the mayor's coffee hour, which is planned for Thursday, June 30th at 9:30 a.m. And the Walker Playground is at 515 Norfolk, if you forgot or you've never been. So definitely stop by, look at the new beautiful playground that they built over the last year or so. Bring your family, get some free treats.
Then there's organization called CREW, Communities Responding to Extreme Weather, and Massachusetts General Hospital are running a workshop to prepare for heat waves. This is July 14th, and more information in the chat. And then I think this might be the second to last slide. Mattapan Square Main Streets is hosting a health and wellness day. It's on Friday, June 24th, coming right up. And then here are some ways you can stay in touch, both with the city's Office of Arts and Culture and with the Cummins Highway project team. So with that, thank you again for joining us tonight. I was excited to see everyone and to talk about art. And thank you so much, Sarah, for joining us and sharing about all the work that you and your department do.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it, and I hope people will reach out with other questions or thoughts and share those job postings widely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Everyone.